Alright man, I don't care how well it drives engagement. I'm not doing these thumbnails with a picture of me and my big open mouth, dude. Fellas, let's talk Liberty Prime today. When I first saw the art on this thing, I was really psyched, man. Look at this. This is compelling. It's a giant American robot. It's got that patriotic energy. Even if it is a satirical swipe at America's propensity to spread democracy through destruction, I wanted to build it. But then I read the card and I was like, screw it, this card sucks. But then I remembered this is a Commander channel and we take on deck building challenges, so I got to work. Many thanks to my supporters Tyler and Zach G. They bought me a coffee at the link in the description. If you want to support the channel, you can do that, or just leave a like and subscribe, buddy. Let's get to it. Liberty Prime recharged to blue, red, and a white for a legendary artifact creature robot. It's an 8/8 with vigilance, trample, and haste. Whenever this guy attacks or blocks, sacrifice it unless you pay 2 energy. Has 2 in tap, sacrifice an artifact, you get energy, and draw a card. Democracy is non-negotiable. So this can bang in, but you need energy, man. Almost all the cards that give energy are not artifacts, but you can sacrifice artifacts to get energy, and you have to pay 2 mana into that ability, which is pretty rough. So you have this big giant robot. It's an 8/8 for 5 mana, but you ain't attacking and generating energy in the same turn, buddy, or are you? So how can we soup this guy up? Well, the most popular combo in these colors is the old Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal combo. So listen, man, we can get infinite mana, we can untap our guy infinitely as long as we have 3 mana producing artifacts on the field. But does that really matter? All we need with this is 1 untap. We have to pay into his ability, but sacrifice artifacts. Infinite mana is great, but may not serve us here. And if we're building that kind of deck, we're chasing and tutoring for a combo piece. There are other better commanders that serve that purpose with better win conditions. With Liberty Prime, we want to bang in with our big vigilant commander. We want to electrocute our opponents with giant punches. So is this guy a viable commander? Sure, you just have to work for it. So the first and most obvious strategy is to create energy. And thankfully there are a lot of little 2 and 1 mana creatures that can create energy on ETB. Minister of Inquiries, Aether Chaser, Aether Swooper, Aether Theorist, Aether in my butt, Aether Geode Miner who generates on attack. These little ding-dongs pop in and make it so our big dude can attack or block. We're going to need the energy to do so. It's like Liberty Prime is a grade school kid, you know, you're trying to wake up to go to school. At 3 mana we have the Aether Torch Renegade. He guarantees 2 attacks with our commander, and the Janjeet Sentry. Janjeet, the emo fellow over there, is pretty neat if we get an overload of energy. We can quickly untap our dude after an activation. Decoction Module, 2 generic mana for an artifact. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get an energy counter. Has 4 in tap, return target creature you control to its owner's hand, so you can reuse some of those ETBs. This pays off all of our creatures with a little burst of energy. This card's a little pricey, but can interact with some of our token producers to make a lot of energy. Gonti's Aether Heart. So this is 6 generic mana for a legendary artifact. Whenever it or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you get 2 energy. Has pay 8 energy, exile it, take an extra turn after this one. I think it's 8, dude, but I can't really count. There are enough cards that give us energy off ETB that it may be worth it just to include a Panharmonicon as well. It's just a damn harmonica, dude. Isn't that clever? And of course, Dr. Madison Lee makes an appearance. So this is red, white, and blue for a legendary creature. Human Scientist, it's a 2/3. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get an energy. Has some other abilities here. You can pay energy, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains trample and haste, which our guy already has. Or you can pay 3 energy, draw a card, or pay 5 energy, return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Something about a lady with glasses working in the lab that gives me the energy counters, dude. I don't think these energy commanders are going to be super popular because one day after release, this lady is $1. And there are a couple other cards from the pre-con that are great enablers for Liberty Prime. The Synth Eradicator is 2 and a red for an artifact creature. Synth Soldier, it's a 3/3 with haste. Whenever it attacks, exile the top card of your library. You may get 2 energy. If you don't, you may play that card this turn. Not bad. Plasma Caster, 1 and a red for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever it attacks, you get 2 energy. There you go, man. Right there, you're getting your 2 energy that you need to keep attacking with Liberty Prime. So what if we don't get any of these guys out there? We'll need to be sacrificing artifacts. Thankfully, that's a well-worn archetype, and there's plenty of fodder to feed Liberty Prime. There are about 4 cards like this. Ichor Wellspring, 2 generic mana for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield or is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. These cards want to be sacrificed. They're great fodder for Liberty Prime's ability. Some of them create other artifact tokens on ETB and when they leave the battlefield as well. How about this bad boy, the old Ugin's Nexus. 5 generic mana for a legendary artifact. If a player would begin an extra turn, that player skips that turn instead. If Ugin's Nexus would be put into a graveyard from the battlefield, instead exile it and take an extra turn after this one. This guy is riding that MDMA trip right into a spiritual ribcage, dude. I've been there, buddy, man. Just listen, take a drink of this orange juice, ride it out, breathe. Every trip ends one way or another. The Ruin Grinder. This guy ruined my whole day on Grinder, man. 5 and a red for an artifact creature. It's a construct. It's a 7/4 with menace. Not bad stats there. When it dies, each player may discard their hand, draw 7 cards, has mountain cycling for 2. Is this guy a great card? No. Is it an interesting wheel effect for a budget deck like this? Sure. This is from the Osgear precon, but we'll go there in a minute. The downside with this is that it's a May ability, so your opponents can choose to keep their hands if they want, but you can cycle it, grab a mountain, and if you do, you can transition over to digging some of those cards out of the graveyard with cards like Osgear. Great with crappy little cards like the prize statue. This is a value creature that can get back your sacrificed artifacts. Goblin Welder's just an absolute classic, dude. The wording has changed over the years, but you're basically getting artifacts back from the yard in exchange for some little token artifact you control or some little piece of garbage. There are also artifact creatures like Scrap Trawler, Junk Diver, Mere Retriever that help recur your sacrifice artifacts to hand. Okay, so we get our commander down and we need to feed him energy to keep him attacking. Liberty Prime can generate his own energy, that's great, but if we activate that ability, we need to untap him in order to attack, which is the whole point of this deck. There are some mana rocks that help us do that. Patriarch's Seal, this is a banger. 3 generic mana for an artifact, tap, add 1 mana of any color, 1 and tap it, untap target legendary creature you control. This is a classic from Baldur's Gate. This card has gotten up closer to $3. We also have the Sonic Screwdriver. 3 generic mana for an artifact, has tap, add 1 mana of any color, untap another target artifact for 1 and a tap, dude. It also can scry and it can, make a creature unblockable, but we don't care. Has some interesting abilities. The most salient is the second ability that untaps Liberty Prime. Then we have Sting, the Glinting Dagger. 2 generic mana for an artifact, equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has haste. At the beginning of each combat, untap equipped creature, has equipped for 2 and some stuff about goblins or orcs. Well, we can just untap our guy for free if we equip Frodo's sword to the giant robot from Fallout. It's fine, alright? Who cares? It's a casual card game. Settle down, continuity nerds. You gotta embrace the jank. Just pretend you're in Doctor Who, for God's sakes. Some of the extra combat cards untap as part of their effect, like Morag, Fury of Akum. 4 red for a legendary creature Minotaur Warrior. It's a 6/6. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it attacks. This turn has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. So play this guy out with Liberty Prime out there. Activate Liberty Prime, get your energy, untap him for the attack. You'll need more energy to attack again, but that's life in the big city, dude. And speaking of cities, check out this Cityscape Aurelia the War Leader. Similar effect, she untaps our guy. Whenever she attacks for the first time each turn, untap all creatures you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Also has haste. The showcase for Multiverse Legends was down to about $3 or $4. I snagged one on April 21st. I checked my TCG player, and I told you guys to grab one, and you didn't. Oh well, it's $9 right now. Interestingly, Mob Rule will untap our guy and can be a win condition depending on what the table's doing. 4 red for a sorcery, choose 1, gain control of all creatures with power 4 or greater until end of turn, untap those creatures, they gain haste until end of turn. So we're going to untap our guy. Liberty Prime has power 4 or greater, it's actually 8 power, damn it. This card rips, man, everybody hates it and it's 69 cents. The stars have aligned, brother. Insurrection, same idea, except you grab all creatures everywhere. And how about some interesting includes, like Delina Wildmage. Whenever she attacks, choose target creature you control, then roll a d20. If it's 1 through 14, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary, and has at the end of this combat, exile this creature. 15 through 20, create one of those tokens, you may roll again. Since the token it creates is tapped and attacking, you don't need to pay the energy if you copy Liberty Prime. And with Delina early game, you can just copy some of your energy producers on ETB so you can grab a little bit of extra energy for later in the game. Crypto Thrall, this guy has 4 generic mana for an artifact creature. It's a construct, has Protector. Other artifacts creatures you control have Hexproof. This guy takes all the fire for our commander, so we got 40k in here too with Lord of the Rings, Fallout, and Doctor Who screwdrivers, brother. And lastly here, the Cyberdrive Awakener. 5 and a blue for an artifact creature construct. It's a 4/4 with flying. Other artifact creatures you control have flying. When it enters the battlefield, until end of turn, each non-creature artifact you control becomes an artifact creature with base power and toughness 4/4. This can also be a finisher if you've popped out a bunch of artifacts, ramp rocks, and little servo tokens and stuff like that. Not the servo tokens, but maybe treasures and stuff like that. This guy is also like $10. Great card though. The Sleeper has awakened! So is this a CEDH deck? No. Is it high power casual? No, not really. Is it surprisingly good and functional while hopefully sliding under the radar so you can slap a giant robot into somebody's face? Yes, it is that. It's more powerful than the Precon. It's $130 all told, man. Goldfish it for funsies, and if you're planning on building Liberty Prime, you can get some ideas and see how it functions. The good thing about this deck is that the curve is very low. 53 of the spells are below 4 mana or 4 mana value. Early drops make for interesting games, and you're spending those turns doing something which feels good. This deck in particular is massively lacking in interaction, but some decks need all their slots to function well. You need to rely on player removal, but these colors have lots of options if you want early and cheap removal or counter spells and stuff like that. My version is more of a proof of concept to make Liberty Prime work, tailor it to your tastes. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be safe out there. Sneaky G from Better Commander signing off.